Mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Fantastic. Do you hear the music just lightly in the background? I'm actually going to be muting it soon. I just wanted to know if you hear it. Perfect. Thank you, Seisu. Thank you, Atlam. Hope you're both well. I'm going to jump right into it because we got a guest today who is waiting in the wings to hop on. So we're going to dive right into it. It's time for the Dungeon Alchemist map making show. I need a theme song. We need one. Alrighty. Welcome everyone to the Dungeon Alchemist map making show. Really happy to have you here. Going to be an amazing show today. Boom. Here's our itinerary. First and foremost, we're going to be discussing news where we're going to cover a couple things, including proved tooltips and new objects, crystals. We have a very special interview with a cartographer from our community and a longtime supporter of Dungeon Alchemist, Highland L4ss. Hey, Tropism, and also thank you for the follow earlier. Arthritic One, hello. Welcome back. Sorry, I kind of stuttered there for a second and just went with it. You know, like when people fall and then they do like a somersault to make it seem like it was normal. Following that interview will be the Damn Questions segment, Dungeon Alchemist Q&A from across our social media platforms and live on stream. After that, we will do a Dungeon Alchemist workshop showcase of forts and keeps, because I feel they're a very important setting in a lot of different campaigns. After that, if there's still time, we will go to a feature showcase discussing universal object scaling and room generation settings. For those of you just tuning in, welcome. Hi, Random Ladybird. You're looking forward to the interview. So am I. Joe Melnick over on YouTube. How are you doing today? Pike, welcome back. So, we've got our itinerary. I hope everyone got a good look at that. So, let's get right to it. In fact, my camera here for just a second. We'll discuss the news. So, basically, I wanted to showcase a couple new things that are going on in the development and in the back end of Dungeon Alchemist. Find those really quick. I thought I had them pulled up, but I guess I closed it. Okay, there we go. I'm going to open the crystals so we can take a look at these. So there are a lot of crystals in Dungeon Alchemist, but none that are, you know, see-through. Most of them are like a solid color, or it's really hard to see through them at all. These are kind of a new addition. I think they'll be really fun. As you can see, they're showing some of the rotational stuff too. There's also another new object hiding in the background, the table saw, and it looks like they've added all these gears and doohickeys, the Da Vinci helicopter sail thing and whatnot. Anyway, I think that's kind of a neat new object on the horizon. They are pretty. And as you can see, they rotated this one so you could get a good look at it at another angle. So, very cool. Very nice. Let's zoom in a little bit. Excellent, right? Isn't it cool? All right, next. This one is actually kind of neat. Let me wait for it to go full screen. So we're improving our tooltips in the update. Oh, shoot. Need to mouse and just get it out of there. Basically, you'll be able to, like, highlight objects, right? and it'll tell you more stuff in the bottom of the object panel. So when he highlights the different aspects, it'll show text in the bottom. Oh, you can't see it because the news. 1 second. Let me get rid of the news panel. If you look carefully there, it'll say, you know how it says shift to place multiple objects, control, toggle, snap to grid? It'll show other things now when you highlight different objects. Oh, this object was downloaded from the workshop, it just said. This object is a variant. Cycle through variants with tab. So essentially, now objects that have like icons on them will also give you information about why down below in the panel at the bottom. So tooltips will be a little bit more prevalent. Here, let me get the mouse on this so I can show you where it's going to pop up. Of course, my mouse highlighter stopped working. It does that so randomly. Very frustrating. Okay, so if you... Oh, it won't do it on this video. In this bottom section of the panel here, it changes information. So once I move the mouse off, it should show that. Anyway, so I know all of you are definitely waiting to get the interview started. We're going to bring her on momentarily. I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. And I think this new feature, at least improvements to like object location in the menu, new tooltips and tooltip information telling you what things are and how they can be interacted with, will go a long way for our community. Okay. Yeah, the asset picker is cool because it shows you exactly in the menu where it is. It's really nice. Ow, bumped my head on my mic. Sorry about that. Okay, so in just a moment here, we're going to bring the lovely Highland L4ss on. Give me just a second here to bring her in, and we're going to just make sure her video and audio is coming through for everyone. Start up our damn user segment. Let me move my camera to the side here. And we'll turn her camera on. You should be able to see her now in the bottom right corner of your screen. Let me turn on the audio. Okay, you should be able to hear her now as well if she says something. Highland L4ss, can you say hello?
Hello, hello there, folks.
I'm gonna mute the music so we don't have that at all. Okay, one more time, say hello to everyone.
Hello, folks.
Okay, so we just want to make sure you can hear her and can see her.
I work in a library. I think you'll be able to hear me if I raise my voice.
Okay, is that any better? Is there an echo by chance? She is a little shy.
Hang on. I'm going to bring the mic closer.
No echo. Good, Seisu. Thank you. And I have turned her up quite a bit, so I'm hoping that will help.
Is that better now?
Okay, we can hear her. Cool. So really quickly, I'm just going to introduce Highland L4ss. I should have done that before we did this, but I'm glad we did this first. So many of you may have seen her around the stream, on Twitch, or in our Discord. She's also very active in our social media circles. The thing is, Highland L4ss has been with this community longer than I've been with it. So she's been with our community a long time, and so a long-time supporter of Dungeon Alchemist. And she has a very unique style of map making where she loves to take historical sites, real places, and make maps based on them. And to be honest with you, it's always a treat when she posts a new map. Now, that's not the only type of map she makes. She also makes maps that are just, cool and interesting and full of whimsy. She has a very unique style, and I'm very eager to, interview her on the stream today. Now, aside from that, though, she's also a librarian, a DM, and a lover of horses. Uh, so, Highland L4ss, thank you for being here. I really very much appreciate you. Warm welcome from all in the crowd. If we could just get a big thank you and welcome to Highland L4ss in all our chats. And we'll get into the interview momentarily. Highland L4ss, if you want to say hello, introduce yourself, and say anything extra you want to add.
Oh, I'm just going to say thank you very much for asking me to come on the stream. It's going to be quite nice to share some of my insight, I hope.
I'm eager to have you on, and just ask you questions and whatnot. So what I'm going to say, everyone, if you have questions for Highland L4ss, we're going to start, I would appreciate it if you start chiming in chat. So if you have any questions, please preface them by saying question and then following it with the question. That way it's easy for me to snipe it out of chat. And Atlam, if you could, compile a list and start sending them to me in DM. One moment. I also have a list of questions, but I don't know if necessarily all of them were for you. Pulling up the Discord section as well. Okay, this is from Asmodeus, who I don't think is here right now. At least he wasn't. I love her accent too. She's got a lovely accent.
I kind of knew that was going to happen, actually.
It's really great to put a face to the name. I swear I've known you for years, but like today was the first time I've ever had a video chat with you. So, let's see here. This question is from Asmodeus. If the devs asked you to pick an asset you would like to see, what would it be?
Oh, that's Scots pine trees. Straight off.
Scots pine trees?
Scots pines, they're very distinctive pine trees because a lot of my stuff's set in the my world is set loosely based in the Highlands of Scotland. Scots pine trees, rowan trees, things like that and larch trees would be absolutely perfect. I think it's always been on my wish list.
That I'll definitely take note of that. I did not even really know there was a distinction. I just think of pine trees, but yeah, there's probably lots of different pine trees.
Yeah.
Growing up with lots of... Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
There, I think. Scots pine trees are very distinctive, and when they get really old, they are very much... They almost have character to them.
Cool. Very cool. Are they like broad?
They can be broad, yes. High up in the mountains, they're much smaller. Lower down, they can get bigger. And more often than not, because of where they grow, they're very windswept and characterful.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. This one's from Low Key on Discord. What features or themes in Dungeon Alchemist does she find most useful when creating maps?
Oh my goodness me. I think any of the themes are fine. I actually, in terms of the themes, I tend to actually use forest, not surprisingly, because trees and forests, I miss them where I live because we don't have that many. In terms of features, I kind of like the terrain tool, but I almost don't like it because I love building just terrain and trying to get the shape of the terrain right. It's one of my frustrations and passions when it comes to Dungeon Alchemist.
So you basically are like everyone else. You often, run into situations where you can't necessarily find motivation or an idea for a map.
Yeah.
But, honestly, like these questions often make me laugh, but at the same time, they're great. Okay, let's see here. Hieronymo has a question. Is there anything particular you would like to highlight regarding the interaction of Roll20 and Dungeon Alchemist? Like a quick tip, for instance?
Oh my goodness me. seem to be one of the few that rarely have any problems with Roll20 and how I do it. And I'm even exporting in 150 DPI to my Roll20, just because I get a bit OCD about the clarity of a map in there.
Are you a pro or a member
I'm a pro.
Okay. I do think that takes away a lot of the headache, like
yes.
that people run into, because obviously there is the option to use Roll20 for free. And
yes.
one of the main selling points of Dungeon Alchemist is when it speeds up your map making, but also integration with virtual tabletops. But in Roll20's case, because they lock scripts, modules, etc., behind their paywall, it often, people will download or buy Dungeon Alchemist, make a map, export it to Roll20, and they get frustrated because they're lacking, all the extra data files.
And the dynamic lighting and things like that.
Yeah, so instead of, they just have an image of a map instead of a map, and the script that has lighting, line of sight, walls, windows, doors, etc. So, this just happened in Discord the other day, and it's like, I wish we had control over their pricing model or what they offered at what level, but unfortunately, like, even if they just let you use one script for free, like, you could just use Dungeon Alchemist, that'd be perfect. Like, and for a lot of DMs, that would be great. And I do love that, they have a free option, and Roll20 is adapting and getting better. I think that's the one thing I run into, at least as a community manager often. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, Roll20 and DA, the only issue I have is sometimes, so remember that Castle Seldom, the Goodrich Castle-based castle I did, because I use so many platforms in it, when you do the dynamic lighting in...
I bet you the lights are everywhere.
There's lines everywhere, so I ended up, that's the one thing I would do, is I ended up deleting all the DA lines. It kept the doors and everything in. For some reason, Roll20 doesn't delete doors when you select all. And I hand drew everything back in.
Oh, no.
I don't mind doing that. I can do it quite quickly. Well, relatively quickly on a big map, like several.
That is a rather large map, actually.
Yeah.
It's a big map. It's a beautiful map. It's one of the maps I chose to highlight today. I'd load it right now, but it makes my computer cry. And I was going to save it for later in the stream. You know what? I'll give it a try. We'll give it a shot, because you're on the stream right now. Why not? There it is.
It would have made my old computer cry. I could not have done that in my old computer.
Okay, so I've got some questions coming in from various platforms. X Vito from YouTube directed at both of us. Are there any suggestions for creating a map suitable for a bastion in Dungeon Alchemist? You want to try answering first, and then I can...
I would say if this map loads and doesn't make your computer cry, I think this is probably quite a good, very large bastion.
One thing about bastions to understand is if you're following the 2024 rules, they have very strict size requirements for certain spaces. So
I haven't touched 24.
While this is a beautiful castle and bastion in its own right, it probably wouldn't meet the requirements for a bastion for 2024. So one thing I want to bring up is I actually have made a bastion that fits 2024. We'll probably show it here in a minute, but we did just load this map up, so I want to share it for a moment. When building a bastion, I think you need to start with remembering that, like, external spaces and certain spaces, they've no size limit requirements. So, like, if they have a big property, like it's an estate or something, and they have a big yard and a road leading up to it, none of that's really described in the bastion's, requirements. So you could take advantage of that. Some things, they're like, yeah, you can have as many closets as you want, but then also a room can only be such a certain size, like, 4 by 4 squares or something. I can't remember. So, I mean, a lot of people are actually starting to play 2024, and that's where the Bastion question has come up a lot nowadays. So it's likely related to that. I want to just verify, though. Vito, are you still here? Is that where you're playing from, is 2024? Or are you playing just a Bastion in general as a term? See, thank you, tropism. It's been a minute since I built my party's bastion. I'll pull it up in a bit and we'll take a look. But this building is absolutely astonishing, Highland L4ss.
Thank you. I wanted to build it for years. Well, all the years we've had DA, but I just didn't have a starting point. And I mean, this has got lots of floors because it goes quite a lot of way down underground as well.
Oh, for sure.
And I just thoroughly enjoyed building it. And one of my adventuring groups is actually now in that castle.
So is this based off of a real place?
Yeah, it's called Goodrich Castle down on the River Wye in Hertfordshire. I think it's Hertfordshire. Basically, River Wye is between England and Wales.
Cool.
So, and it is loosely based. Obviously, I'm working from a ruined castle.
So you they essentially just have like the ruins of it, and they have some drawings and an idea of what it looked like, and you're going from there.
Didn't have very many drawings at all.
Really?
Actually.
Not at least publicly.
Yeah, things like the chapel and the solar, which is on the right hand side. There was looking directly on there. You got the gatehouse, and then beyond that, there's the solar or great hall. They were kind of intact. All that wing at the front to the left of the chapel were intact. So it's just I had to.
We took some creative.
Yeah.
You know, what do they say? Creative decision making license. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So it's a tricky one because I like things to be exact, and when they can't be, it's kind of.
Such a phenomenal build. How long did it take you to make this, by the way?
I thought I did calculate it, but I probably dumped that note paper, but 3 figures of hours, probably.
Jeez.
Going in here and there in between all the other stuff and D&D prep and everything like that. But this has actually got a significance to me. One of the reasons I wanted to do it is because my father took me there years ago when I was doing school library meetings down in England. He lived near Oxford, and he took me down to Tintagel and Goodrich Castle, and it just blew my mind away. And I actually created a D&D adventure on the basis of this castle.
Wow.
Basically.
So yeah. Cool.
But yeah. And yeah, so that's basically the adventure 6 or 7 years down the line that they've just arrived at this castle.
That's so cool, like full circle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to get back to the Bastion question because that was kind of the root at hand, and I'm going to answer that. We'll bring up another question momentarily. So this Bastion here, I built for my party. We're a party of 6, and the DM, we're actually playing in 2014, but I read the Bastion rules, thought they were neat. And the DM kind of wanted to start learning 2024 because he DMs lots of different games professionally. So he's like, yeah, we can do a Bastion in your game. So we're actually playing 2014 rules, but we have a Bastion. So the thing about a Bastion at first is it's going to be really light in what you have and can work with. So like bedrooms, right? Every one of our players has a bedroom, and we kind of just customized them and made them look neat inside. But they're all the same size. They're very small, you know? They're like, what, 4 squares? Some spaces we combined into 2. So this is like a study and a library. We just put them together in one big space, but technically each of those has a limit in squares too. So, you know, this side and that side. Our workshop over here for like crafting and whatnot. And then we had some extra space in the build, so I just made this like a bathroom. But remember, with like rooms, they have to be a very specific sizes. So this is actually 2 workshops crammed together because multiple people picked workshop. If you go out here, we have 2 gardens. 2 players picked gardens, so I made 2 gardens. We have 2 storehouses, so I just merged 2 of them into one big storehouse. This was like an altar, like a religious altar for our paladin. He's like a nature paladin. Here is like our dining hall and our kitchen and a storehouse. there was like all this random space outside that I decided to just kind of make use of it. And then downstairs we have our barracks, red versus blue, and then they're kind of like armory. And then this is like a dead space with like I just put a little bar for them and some stairs leading to different parts of the house. No, we're doing the interview now, but one of the question was about bastions, so we were talking about it. So essentially, remember when you're making a bastion, try your best to follow the size rules. And I think at first, either separated kind of compounds that are disjointed in one massive property, or like one massive mansion with everything in it is the best way to go. For now, at least.
I think my players, one of whom's just popped into chat, will be really annoyed at not having a bastion that sized up in Wintrig in my game.
The only reason it's so big is because each player gets to pick specific rooms as part of creating a bastion, and so we had so much to pack in. But depending on how many players you have in your campaign, the size may be drastically different. You know what I mean? So
I'm going to have to go and look at it, because I've not seen this, and it's quite intriguing to me.
The Bastion rules are in the 2024 book. Check them out. Very cool. They're in the DMG. Okay, moving on. Next question. Lalandra Blue, Twitch, asks, what causes you to pick a particular historical site?
Oh gosh, places I've visited. It's actually mostly places I visited, or when you're browsing social media or whatever, and because the logarithms bring stuff up, I might see something that I want to create because I went, oh, that's nice, and I've got empty notebooks of it. But it's usually places I visited, places that I love. So a lot of the stuff, the Orkney farmhouses, crofts, whatever you want to call them, that I've done are all places that I've been to in Orkney. And it's the same with, I think, one of my earlier maps, the Clearance Village was a clearance village in the middle of the Highlands in Sutherland as well. So it's really places I've visited or places that I have childhood memories of as well. So it's like Little Morton Hall, which is a map that I'm having major issues with in terms of roofing, so I'm leaving it alone at the moment. But Little Morton Hall is a Tudor manor, and DA definitely has got some lovely beamed walls, which are absolutely perfect for it. So yeah, childhood memories or places that I've visited.
So do you constantly visit historical sites?
No, not particularly. I have my favourites here, but, that I'll go to, places like Scale House and Old Manor, on basically been there for, gosh, it's built on an old medieval graveyard actually. Orkney is incredibly inspiring.
The guides there know you on a first name basis?
Pretty much, yes. Pretty much.
It's fantastic.
But yeah, it's places I've visited or something that I might happen to see when it comes to it. I've nearly always hand-drawn maps and things, and they've always fed into my D&D games real places, because sometimes I think I find it easier to create from real. However, the mansion I'm currently working on is an imagination one. So, but I quite like putting in your I like to make it as structurally correct as possible, which is not always easy. So you might see the odd beam in my maps holding up a roof because I think the roof would collapse, even though it won't in Dungeon Alchemist.
I wish we could get collapsed roofs. But anyway, that's another subject entirely. It's nice to know like that it's mostly just, places you've been throughout your life. Yeah. Really just over a course of, so many years, you've been to a lot of historical sites. Some you repeat because you really enjoy them. Mm-hmm. It's honestly inspiring, though. I wish I should probably go to more museums and stuff, but not much history in the United States.
Yeah. The amount of photographs, though, I take of how in historical places they'll have a plan of the building on all the floors. I've got sorry, I'm just laughing at somebody's put in the chat there. But yeah, I take a lot of photographs. So if they've got a map on or a plan on the wall, I'll take a photograph, because you don't necessarily always find them online. So So Goodrich, I could only ever find the not the lower basement, but the ground floor sort of thing. But yeah, it's.
I bet you really could only find them in like books and stuff. Like,
yeah, I mean, I've got enough castle books and stuff here, and I always buy the guidebook as well. If I'm somewhere, I'll buy a guidebook which will have the information in it as
so
well.
is Wolfen one of your players?
Yes, Wolfen is most definitely one of my players.
Ah, I get it.
Sorry,
she
Wolfen,
often tells us the stuff she does to you, so
yeah,
no spoilers.
But they absolutely know not to say things that give me ideas. See, always have notepaper next to you. Take notes, clap the roof on them.
So next question, Joe Melnick on YouTube. Have you seen or used the Palladium Book of European Castles compiled by Matthew Ballant?
No, I haven't.
It is called the Palladium Book of European Castles by Matthew Ballant. And it's Balent.
Wow, no, I haven't come across that one. I've got it. I think my main books there are either tourist guides of the castles, or I think I've got 2 books on the castles of Scotland. Yeah, Mac, you'll remember that Slains Castle one very, very early on in the DA life. I want to try that again at some point. I have started one, but again, I'm having issues with it that make me kind of want to throw it out the door.
I'm sure as roofing gets refined and better, we'll hopefully make it easier for you to tackle. I do know that like Anani has come up with some interesting methods to work around the bugs in the roofing in DA.
Oh, wow.
He shared some tips and trick videos in our Discord for anyone that's interested in the tips and tricks section. Yeah. But I know it's not an excuse or like whatever. We're definitely working on it. It's just complex. There's a lot to it.
Oh, yeah, I'm aware of that. I have been in conversation with folks about it, but okay, it's what it is. It's at the moment. We know that this is one thing that I find is that it's still a program in development, and for what it offers, this is where I get emotional. I think it's probably one of the most amazing things that's come out of the. It's not a video game, but of the gaming things that I've come across, to be able to imagine things. I'm not so good at imagining 3D. And to be able to draw something in 3D, even though I'm using it in 2D on maps and things, is just quite phenomenal.
You know, I appreciate the positivity and the kind words. Honestly, like, I, as the community manager, often get the brunt edge of, you know, a lot of our complaints and, like, dissatisfaction with Dungeon Alchemist. And so when I hear positive things like that, myself, I'm sure the devs, you know, also appreciate it. I've got the name of the book and I can send it to her if she needs it still. She wrote it down though.
I wrote it down. I always with me notepaper.
Okay, next. Let's see here. From Cindy Valance on YouTube. Which TTRPGs do you run? Do you find that the maps you enjoy are your favorite as a GM?
Well, the only TTRPGs I run is Dungeons and Dragons, and been doing so for 20 years now. I started, well, actually, it was some pupils at school that said, "Can we play in the library?" And I went, "Yep." I played that once before I moved here, and the rest is history.
Nice. So let me reiterate the last part of that question here. So, and just to clarify, you've never run anything but D&D then?
I have had a shot at, no, I've tried played Pathfinder, I've played Savage Worlds, Gamma World, Call of Cthulhu. I think we had a shot at Vampire the Requiem and things like that. But dare I say, I'm of an age that my brain can't hold more than one doesn't want to learn anymore. I've got Dolmen Wood, Dragonbane, Critical Core, Vaesen, all sitting on, and the rest of it all sitting, Draw Steel now as well, all sitting on my shelves. But
you end up just always going back to the old friend, D&D.
Yeah, I know people rake on it from time to time, but I love it. is what it is. I've played since effectively 3rd edition, possibly even from advanced D&D, because that was probably what it was in 1992 that I played 2 days before I moved here for the first time. And it took another 10, 15 years to get playing at school. So yeah, D&D is probably the one I'm better at, to be honest.
The last part of that question was, do you find that the maps you enjoy making are your favorite as a GM?
Yeah, at the time that I make something, I always kind of look at it and think, yeah, that's my favorite. I think I did spot a question on the Discord that was about what favorite map or one you're most proud of, but it's usually the one I've just finished, because I look at it and go, oh, right. But yeah, any map. I mean, Wolfen might be able to follow through, but I've started using DA maps a lot more on Roll20, whereas before I would buy into stuff on Roll20. So this has actually saved a lot of money as well. Or hand roll and put them up. Or I've still got maps in Dungeon Draft that the party in either game have never even got to yet. I've still got hand roll maps.
You got a repository they haven't even seen yet from other apps.
Yeah.
You just love making maps, okay?
But yeah. But at the end of the day, certainly the 2 online games I run are very much ad lib. It should have been finished 7-8 years ago, or even a year down the line off of that. It was a one shot. Both of them were one shots.
What level are these players?
I think one group's 11 or 12 and the other group's level 13. But we just play once a month. So
I feel that vibe. Feel it.
Well, when I say once a month, I play. Some of the players are in both games. A couple of the players in both games, and a couple of the other players are just in different games. There's only 3 in a party, plus random hellhounds and wolves and a little rabbit at the moment in one of the games.
It's a never-ending one shot.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. But really, I mean, I think when I first started, I will say that when I first started thinking about using maps for DA, it's kind of, no, I want to use my own maps. Am I spending the same amount creating maps in DA than I would be if I got my graph paper out and drawing them, or using Dungeon Draft or Wonder Draft or whatever? I don't know. I actually find this quite a mental health thing as well, because it kind of makes you switch off.
It's cathartic.
It very is, absolutely.
It's honestly, I've enjoyed making maps in games since like The Sims, but decorating a space and kind of fleshing out a room. That being said, like as a child, I used to draw maps all the time. And because in school, we had a task where we were learning about the pyramids, and we had to draw like an inside of a pyramid from like a 2D perspective using graph paper. And then we had to put like traps and stuff. And I ended up taking that one assignment and drew like hundreds of maps. And like I got obsessed. My mom was worried for a bit. And then years later got into map making and like video games like Halo or Far Cry. Any game that had a map maker in it, I would spend a lot of time making maps.
Yeah.
So I get it's fun. It's just like, you don't even have to accomplish anything, may never see the light of day. But for you, it's a fun, relaxing exercise.
Oh, God, yeah. And as I say, it's the creative process. Because my games are so ad lib, and sometimes my players go directions that I completely didn't imagine them to do, or they haven't taken the one of 2 or 3 prompts. I end up having to go away and creating other maps, sort of thing. It's crazy. But just even if you're just creating a map, just a fantasy map, whether it's my Druid's Hollow or something like that, which actually was oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the creator. I adapted it from a creator. It's referenced on the Steam Workshop. When I'm creating that, I get ideas from actually creating as well.
So you'll browse maps and get inspiration?
No, this is me just creating maps. I very rarely I'll browse some people's maps. So I've used a couple of Hieronymo's maps in my games very effectively. The ruined ship that he did was it in a swamp? Yeah, I think it was in a swamp. I adapted that for my game, and the party, they know. I mean, Wolfen knows now. They know it's a fallen flying ship. So they're in. Well, that's one of their many things that they've ended up needing to do on their job list, is get some sails back up to the flying ship. And I think they've already captured some lightning to make it go. Guess where I got that idea from? Thank you, Stardust. But
there was a statement that kind of went along with this from Pike over on YouTube. I think working in 3D expands the ability for abstract thought.
Yeah, it will do.
So yeah, like, you were talking about how you like building in 3D because you have a hard time, visualizing it otherwise. So I agree. How 3D map maker is often, I think, the best approach to building a map, even if it's intended for like a 2D viewing space, because you have a much better grasp on the space overall, its overall distance, the sizing of objects, etc. So yeah, I agree with that statement there, Pike, and I agree it kind of goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about here. Atlam, we'll have to wait until the questions segment after following this, where it's Dungeon Alchemist Q&A. Right now, we're not doing, question support, but we're doing questions towards Highland L4ss. So if there's a question that's more like, hey, about Dungeon Alchemist, it'll be in the segment following this. I hate to ask them to wait, but if they're welcome to chill out and get to know our community. And once we wrap up this interview, then we can cover, Dungeon Alchemist related questions. Because the following segment right after this is the Dungeon Alchemist Q&A segment. Okay.
I did actually spot one from Lilandra there about what inspired me to start making maps. I've always drawn maps, and I still have my first ever map from when I was 8 or 9, when I was growing up in the Highlands of Scotland, with wild catwood and things like that.
Cool.
So yeah, and I still have it somewhere. It's well sellotaped together. It's in the old archive box somewhere. So yeah, and my father was a planner, and so he used to draw maps of things as well. So I copied him.
You know what? If you're not going to be around later, user, here you go, really quickly. We're working on it, but it doesn't mean it will be available. It's something we're testing and kind of trying within our, development testing right now in the back end. I haven't seen a working example of it, so I can't say for sure yes. But one of our leads, our lead designer, one of our developers, Wim Taher, the creator of Dungeon Alchemist, basically said just recently that he hopes that we can add the ability to mirror objects in our next update, which he anticipates launching around August this year, maybe a little bit later. So, sorry to cut you off there, Highland L4ss. I just wanted to answer their question if they have to leave immediately. So, apologize there. We've got another question here from Lowkey on Discord, if you're ready.
Absolutely.
If the DA, or no, what future features or themes are you especially looking forward to?
I think I'm quite liking the idea. I think this is the Water Worlds one, to have different levels of water and waterfalls, because I did, again, very early on in Dungeon Alchemist, it was very much a terrain map. I did Blackrock Gorge near where I grew up. One of these places that you go to that you get a shudder. It's a really deep, very narrow gorge with a couple of bridges over it, and you go out on the bridge. It's kind of, it's not, when I say it's very deep, it's not as deep as some of gorges you've probably got in the States and things like that, but it's deep enough and dark enough and dank enough with the foliage and the wet and the moss. And I really would like to do a decent image of that with tumbling water going through it.
I do know water is definitely on the horizon. So for sure, like I definitely want waterfalls and currents and stuff like that. Like Trust me, I know y'all want it so bad. And it's so sad sometimes that we don't have it. But I do appreciate the fact that like you're still eager for it too. Like after all this time, someone like you is just wanting that so badly, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like
Uh-huh.
I honestly like you know how it is though. Like it's just some of these updates take so much longer than
Yeah.
others.
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of rivers, and because again, Talavard, my D&D world in the based on the Highlands of Scotland, there are a lot of, says the person sitting looking at a picture on the screen here. There are a lot of tumbling rivers. Actually, there we go. Just looking at this one, this is a tumbling peaty river. Peat being kind of the created on the hills. They use it for burning and things like that. But it's very dark in color, and peaty waters have got a kind of almost sometimes an amber or a dark brown color. Might have to ask for that, mightn't I?
We do have the muddy water, which is pretty close,
Muddy,
but
no, peaty water is still clear. Would you believe? It's just got that dark tinge to it, dark brown tinge to it, but it's still clear.
Interesting.
But yeah, definitely need more, be able to do more rivers that kind of, I'm not going to say realistic, but rivers, because that's something I don't have enough of in terms of my games, and I tend not to use them in DA because they are, or the water, because it looks like tea without milk. Yes, that's exactly what peat water looks like.
Is this pretty close, or?
No, as I say, you would see right the way through it. It's much as Wolfen said there. It looks a bit like tea without milk.
I don't drink a whole lot of tea, so
yeah, that's got a bit of a cloudy hue. That would probably work, but you know, I'm a perfectionist though. But
you know, as an American, we hate tea, so part of our Constitution, I think. American coffee. Oh, way to go, Asgard. You got to just rip on me. Honestly, I'm all for it. Keep ripping on America. We need to be shamed more. Anyway, moving on. My wife drinks some cold teas here and there, and she has this teapot that's like see-through crystal, and they have these flower petal tea things that you drop in and it like unfolds, and there's like a flower in the tea you make. So anyway, that's like probably the coolest tea I've ever seen. She knows tea way better than I do. I'm like, I don't know anything about tea. She'll have her friends over and they have like tea drinking parties and tea parties and hang out, and it's like a fancy lady party, and I just go play video games because I'm like a grunt and don't know anything about this stuff. Anyway, so yeah, there are some Americans that know and love tea, but I just don't know anything about it. Let's see, moving on. Question from Random Ladybird. When looking at a historical site, what are your stages of working? Is it easy to find it mapped or drone images, or can you just go by photos?
I will often go by my own photographs or photographs. So the likes of, I think Hieronymo, again, early on, Hieronymo and I did a joint map of the Bishops and Earls Palace in Kirkwall there. And I basically went on, I went on the board, the display boards that Historic Scotland have at them, and just took photographs and the guidebook. So usually maps that are available, or I will, historical site. There's a Old Croft. I'm pointing, you don't know that way, but that's north. Northwestish.
Ah, yes, north. Got it.
Yeah, that's northwestish over there. Anyway, I actually used Google Earth to go in and at least just get a layout of the walls and all that to get that. But most often it is either published in guidebooks or photographs I've taken of maps, and sometimes quite often my own photos. If you look carefully in my maps, I quite often put my own photographs of the building that I've done in the picture frames, if it has picture frames.
I've also seen you use overlays in some of your maps too, haven't you, for tracing of like sites?
Yes, I have done. Yes, that's actually probably a really useful tool that I didn't really use it to begin with. And then I think I might have seen you suggesting it or someone else suggesting it on stream once. And it's kind of that light bulb moment was, why was I so idiotic not to think of that?
Well, if you especially have some top-down shots of the site,
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, I'm sure that's so helpful.
Yeah. Well, the Slane's Castle map, that early map, my new map, I actually used I'm using the overlay of the old map. I took a screen cap of the old map, and that overlay is being used to sketch out the new map.
Nice,
on
nice.
Alchemist.
So you
Yeah.
use the old map you made, you have the exported image, and then you just made the new map the exact same size and overlaid it, so it would save you time in sketching it out. Perfect. Perfect.
And I've done that. The Kieran mansion that I'm working, or the rebuild of the Kieran mansion, because I did it obviously in separate maps before. Again, that's been the same. You screen cap it or download it. Actually, JPEG it. Actually, it's better doing a download of it.
Yeah, you download the JPEG, so it's the exact export
Yeah.
size, and then you just make the new map the same size.
And
Perfect.
yeah, it's absolutely handy, especially, and I promised myself I would never rebuild maps because time.
But
and
look,
I'm doing
now
it.
you have multi-level.
Exactly. I mean, my party haven't made Somerton yet, and I've got a map that I absolutely love of Somerton and the island on the edge of the loch, or the lake, that has the temple on it. And I'm looking at it going, that was a hell of a map to build. Do I really want to start again and get other roofs on it?
Do it. Honestly, I would love to see your take on some of your older maps with multi-level and underground complexes and stuff.
I tell you what, though.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, in terms of multi-level, we definitely need a story and a half, not a full story, because I mean, I'm sitting basically in the roof space here. This is the roof space. It's kind of
I think
I know it's a tricky one. That's something for way down the line.
I think with time they'll try.
Yeah,
we just kind of have to make do with what we have. Maybe even going 2 rooms that are like 2 stories and cutting off about half of it with something. But the vertical, I know I'm in a vaulted room right now myself.
Yeah.
It's a half gable on this side that I'm in. And I hate that I can't do that in DA. I'm just happy though that we have ceilings finally. Like, you have no idea how many complaints I've gotten about it breaks immersion seeing the tree outside of my house through the outside no ceiling area. I'm like, yeah, I know, I get it.
It's funny, that never actually bothered me really, because at the end of the day, I'm only using it top down. I'm not, although I do occasionally now I've got a computer that can cope with it, because my previous computer wouldn't have Roll20 open, wouldn't have Discord open, wouldn't have XSplit open, and DA just would not load, so I couldn't take them through it. But now I can sometimes take them through. So likes of this map, I will sometimes take them through the map.
It's fun to go through in first person, or like showcase areas, or follow along with them if you can. For sure.
But my old-fashioned brain for D&D is that actually, and I understand there are people that, like, I can't really imagine things in 3D. I have and all that, but my old-fashioned brain goes, no, I just need to describe stuff. And I'm a bit stubborn like that with the children at school, describing a lot, because we only have 40 minutes to run a game, 40 to 50 minutes to run a game. You don't really have time to faff around with a map and everything like that. It's like, right, we're doing that and doing that. Here's a grid. That is where your combat is, sort of thing.
I personally am not a big fan of theater of the mind combat, because it's very abstract with distance.
I always put a grid out. I put a grid out for that for the kids.
But like, I can see the argument for both. Like, the old school style, there's a reason it was that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That being said, I love advancement, technology, new horizons. And Dungeon Alchemist feels like the future of tabletop gaming in a lot of ways. Like, I love being able to share a map from these different angles with players. Like, you never really had this before. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, and it's so immersive, and like, there are, people out there that, like, I say this all the time on stream, and I'm sorry for repeating it, but everybody learns different. Some people are visual, some people are hands-on, some people need like instruction, you know, some people learn from repetition. And so having a visual representation or even multiple angles of an area, a space that you're, you know, showcasing can help a lot of different players on your table.
Yeah,
And it also
absolutely.
will entice different types of players to the game. I think my son wasn't interested in D&D until I showed him maps like this that were 3D.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I do think that it can entice a whole new generation or a whole new, you know, group of players that were never interested in this because they just thought it was imaginary playtime. And so when you have a space that is visual for them, it helps a lot. Anyway, going on from that,
Yes.
I do have more questions here. I'm going to kind of try to fly through them. So we got one from Atlam. From your experience, what new tool or tools or feature would make recreating real-life locations and landmarks easier in DA?
What new or what possible suggestions?
So what new tool or feature would make recreating real-life locations and landmarks easier in DA?
If you're wanting to do in terms of terrain or landmarks, to be brutally honest, a really small terrain brush.
Oh, yes. You know, we talked, were you here for Wim's interview a little bit?
Yes.
We talked about the brushes and the terrain brush and how it needs an overhaul and we need more brush shapes and sizes and sensitivity and merging all the terrain brushes into one major palette instead. You know, like it's still cool to have the biomes that generate with the native stuff, but it'd be great to have like every terrain brush. Anyway, continue with what you were saying there.
But yeah, no, in terms of the terrain tool, it'd be really nice to have a small brush, but I have actually worked out that if I raise the ground up to where I want it, and then I very, very short, sharp clicks to drop it down, so never holding it down for very long at all. The shorter, the better to try and get the shape that you want. And that's what I tend to do. So I always tend to start with raised terrain, then lower it where I'm wanting the hills or the cliffs or whatever. And it certainly works a heck of a lot better.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, it's definitely something that a smaller tool would be handy, but learn to work with it.
Next question is from Traveler Chimaru on Twitch. Many of your maps are based on real-world locations. How are you using them in your games? Which fantasy RPG landscapes are you planting these maps in?
The fantasy landscapes are very much full-blown fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons, planted in my Talavard, and I've used them in my Orkney setting as well, which I've done for the public library over a few years as well.
So it's a homebrew setting set within the D&D rule set.
Setting.
Gotcha.
Based on the Highlands of Scotland, but it doesn't matter the fact that Castle Seldom is in the far north. Castle Seldom is a transient castle. It does belong where it belongs, but it's where Seldom is a castle, or where Seldom is a place not often seen. I can't actually remember the rest of my poem, but it's a castle that can be seen elsewhere. And if it is seen elsewhere, it's a foreboding of things to come. And in this case, the potential rise of a lich that at least one party is, dare I say it? Sorry, not managing to stop yet. Knowing that there's someone in there.
No spoilers. Well, maybe a few.
No, they know they've. Yeah.
Listen, you know you're doing a bad job preventing the lich from coming back to life. Get on it. Just kidding. Alrighty, next question.
Give it a really good denouement when it gets to level 20, won't it?
Oh no. Okay, next question comes from Seisu on Twitch. What's the worst thing your players did from a GM perspective? Maybe some light genocide? Did they break any treaties? I'm just kidding. Continue.
I mean, I'm sure there's loads of things I wish I could think of, but you've got to bear in mind I have 3 hours of stream, 3 hours of stream at least. Well, we started out with Jingle Hell. Yeah, it's called Jingle Hell because that was the one shot. But Wolfen might be able to tell you, but I don't know. I think
What's just one thing
sometimes
they did that just made you shake your head ridiculously?
I think after previous experiences is when one of the players decided to pick up this rabbit in a fey cave.
Oh, goodness. A rabbit in a cave, first off, should always be
yeah.
very foreboding. That's like Monty Python 101.
Yeah, and when they were, I must admit that it's going like that. But I give them far too many, possibly too many options, and I probably dig my own grave when it comes to dig my own grave when it comes to giving them options. But it's just good. I mean, it's their game. I enjoy it mostly. Sometimes I think I've been really rubbish, but.
So what happened with the rabbit in the cave?
Well, they went. Actually, one of the other things I've just remembered one. Same, pretty much probably consecutive sessions. So the Dragonbone cleric had picked up this rabbit. Decided it was like because Evelios had the wolf, winter wolf. Orthica actually wanted a pet as well and picked up this fey rabbit from this, basically what was a fey cave with a graveyard off. Remember that sewer map I did, Oran Sewer?
Yes.
So they've been in Oran Sewer. They found this fey cave just off of it. And Orthica picked up this rabbit. And then he disappeared off because Wolfen had been kidnapped and they had to go and find him and trundle along all these pipes and ended up in a cave, which I adapted from another Hieronymo map, funnily enough. Beautiful map, actually, that one. And so they went in there. I think it's probably one of the worst things ever because I'm sitting there thinking, and they sent Wolfen, Orthica and Evelios always send Wolfen first, whether it's to speak to people, he's their spokesperson. And first of all, Wolfen went in to go and knock on the door, of course, triggered a fireball trap.
Oh, no.
So they didn't check for anything. And then they got through there and there was a whole load of stuff. And Orthica had this rabbit. And when they were in combat at one point, the rabbit came out, but the rabbit turned into something called a grabbit. So a very big, evil rabbit. And I think they kind of knew it was going to happen. But then there's a difficult one. And the same session or previous sessions, leaving whatever, it wasn't a purple worm, but it was something along that lines. It's from Kaywood Publishing's Monsters of Phelan in the Underworld. Leaving a worm, an underground burying worm, alive, which after they had taken out the cultist that had taken over basically this bandit guild quotas, they the worm came back and got them, and they were on very little health. They survived, just.
Only just.
Yeah.
You didn't fudge it, right?
But the rabbit, the holy hand grenade, yeah. The rabbit, yeah, it's kind of, yeah.
That's just funny though. Like the second you said it, I like instantly I would have a hard time not metaing that being like, nope, I'm avoiding that. But my character is like one of the most paranoid people in our party because I've already found like hundreds of traps and disarmed them. And anytime we go somewhere, I'm like, really, you guys want to just walk through the door again? After, countless times of almost dying or being stuck in a battle to the death, or, can we just please check for a trap? Like, just what? It is like my sole responsibility in the party to keep them from getting hurt from traps. Anyway.
I've just had a memory of probably one of the first things when I didn't particularly know if the person that plays Evelios and the person that plays Orthica that well at that point, because it was very early on in the Jingle Hell one shot. And they were basically having to find out why the Temple of the Winter Sun they had no contact from it. And they got a bit of a timey-wimey shifty thing. Anyway, they went to this village and it was quite quiet and dead. It seemed to be dead. Yes, you were, weren't you? Anyway, they were going into this town and a door opened and a lady threw out the slops, and Evelios, this is when they were level 1 or 2, shot the lady.
Because she was just throwing out trash?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. And that's actually followed Evelios all the way through now. So I think it's
Way to
referred to all the
go,
time.
trigger happy guy.
Yeah, yeah, and he still is. But yeah, it might come back to hit him one day.
He was warned about the trap. He just forgot.
Yeah, I think some of the characters who were burying some dead who were trying to escape or whatever had actually warned them when they were going to go and try and rescue the rest of the kidnappees. But yeah.
Oh, goodness.
It's fun.
Oh,
It's
goodness. Fun. All right. We got a couple more questions here from the stream, at least. Pike, over on YouTube. Have you recreated megalithic structures such as Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, Mayan pyramids, and the like?
I don't know if you count Petra ad Ir megalithic, but that's
the Petra map is so pretty.
Yeah, because I've got one as desert and one as jungle. I've got to admit, I love the jungle version of it. That's all obviously physically hand built with blocks of stone, and the good old table and plank thing to get things on.
Hey, Dirty Rollers, how you doing, bud?
So if you're looking for a Neolithic thing, I've done Ring of Brodgar in Orkney. I did one for an Orkney-based one.
Ring of what?
Brodgar, Brodgar. Brodgar, yeah. But there's also yeah, so it's so I did it. So I've kind of Ring of Brodgar. I think I've got another version of it, more fantasy
with the lightning, right?
That's actually the what's it called? Touchstone Circle, which is a modern thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I think I probably put standing stones around it, kind of like Ring of Brodgar anyway, as well.
Kind of reminded me of the layout, at least.
But with the Brodgar one, it was done early on, so I had to edit it in, I think it was edited in GIMP to put kind of snow on it for my Christmas one shot. So
let's just add snow right now.
But I had it because Heather doesn't take a snow cover. Heather tends to stick up through the snow. I just did it kind of patchy. Let's see what is it going to look like. Yeah, you see how it sits on the heather? That's not how it would sit on heather in reality.
Oh, but it's a fantasy.
Yeah,
it's not reality.
I make maps real places. I want them accurate.
Put an iceberg below. Yeah, it could work for sure.
Yeah,
might work.
So that is our probably most iconic site in Orkney, and it's the same with that Maze How map. The one that I did for the Dam Challenge, the snowy one, I've actually got somewhere on there. I've got that's Neolithic tomb. So the Neolithic chamber tomb, which was broken into by the Vikings in whatever year it was. It's got Viking runes in and everything. You know, the sort of runes like Ingeborg is the fairest of them all. Is one of the ones that the transcription of it is.
Cool. I do love your watermark copyright stuff. So early on in her map making, like when she started sharing maps on the workshop, I remember you being a little frustrated, discouraged because people were taking your work and claiming it as their own or making subtle changes. And you know,
very obvious.
The spirit of the workshop is obviously anyone can share each other's work and remaster it or make changes and whatever, use it in your own campaigns. But reselling other people's work or claiming it's your own is poor form and actually, violates the terms of service of the Steam Workshop, because it is essentially like a Creative Commons space with, terms and conditions that you have to agree to, that you don't want to, post any copyrighted material or use this material for like resale and stuff like that. But anyway, I could see why you were frustrated, and I love that you took this matter, copyright law, trademark law, all of that stuff. It's a big deal. Mm-hmm. So this is your work, and you're proud of it, and you want to make sure that it, people can use it, but they need to use it respectfully.
I like sharing this stuff because you just never know. I mean, like, I've used a few maps from other folk. You just never know when you're going to find something that absolutely fits your campaign that you can adapt for your own one. But as I say, the selling side of things is just wrong. But yeah.
But this is
So
smart
gosh,
because
2022, blimey.
this gives people a visual reminder when they're opening your maps. And like, I love the people in our community kind of adding to this that credit each other when they use each other's assets or other maps as inspiration. You know, so this is just like a good way to protect yourself and kind of have a boilerplate little copyright agreement in your works that's embedded in it in the tracing layer. And essentially it's visible to them on the side. Yeah, so Sack mentioned in chat he'll hide little signatures in his works, like little names, images, things like special items hidden in certain places that they're hard to find. So he can go in and be like, yeah, this was my map. So that's another way to do it. Protect yourself for sure.
I think it's only fair.
It's smart to protect yourself in that way. Even just a simple, you know, a boilerplate little thing like this, or adding a few little watermarks in your map in other places, there are builder marks, if you will. So one more thing here from, at least from Twitch. Sack had a post of appreciation. Hello to Highland L4ss. Love your terrain crafting plus historical accuracy.
Thank you, Sack.
Essentially, tropism, it is an Easter egg that is not meant to be found. Only really Sack knows about it, or if someone found it, they'd be really deep diving into the map. Let's see here. I've got a couple more questions from Discord, and then we can let you go. Where is it? This next one's from Asmodeus. How long have you been... let's see here. How long have you been a DM? What originally got you interested in this genre? He said player, but I think he meant DM. So...
Oh gosh, I think I did touch on it earlier. 1992, I was invited to a game with some friends of mine, student friends of mine, 2 days before I moved here. And it was 2005-06 that some students at school said, "Can we play D&D?" I went, "Oh, I played that once." And so 20 years, we're in our 20th year. I'm pushing 180, 190 pupils through my D&D groups over those years, bearing in mind most of them play for all of the 4 to 6 years that they're at school.
Does the school support that in any way with like funding or?
No. Yes and no. Yes, I've been able to buy stuff, but I was really lucky that a miniature painter way back before COVID had spotted me posting about school D&D and the miniature painting, because I've got a miniature painting club as well at the school, which has about 6 or 7 girls doing it at the moment, which is really suddenly taken off. But they put out, asked me, and I asked the school, and they said, yeah, that's fine. They put a call out on Twitter, and I got miniatures, I got paints, and I have, bearing in mind, I can have 20 to 40 pupils on a Friday afternoon activity, depending on who takes it.
I mean, that's often more than some mainstream clubs. That's really heavy attendance. I really hope they start giving you more support.
Yeah, we average about 20 to 25, but I've got all the stuff we need because I've got multiple copies of all the 2014 core rule books and things. Some of I get donations still from time to time. So most of my stuff,
exclusive to your clubs, or those library books that anyone can check out?
They're in the library, so anyone could borrow them if they wanted to. I do suggest them to borrow and take home, but it got to the stage, because I used to have obviously one set, and we just couldn't run it on one set. When you started getting even 10 to 18 pupils, it was starting to get difficult. One of the year, we're 350 of thereabouts school. One year I had 39 pupils, so that's more than 10% of the school. I had more people in my D&D / role-playing games activity than the sports, which are generally more popular. That was before COVID. Yeah,
that's crazy.
So going back to the question, it's always been fantasy. It's always been that, and I think it's because I've always loved reading fantasy and things like that. But the school recognise what I do in the library more for a health and well-being. The academic side, although it's really busy at the moment, has dropped off to a certain extent over the years. they recognize the space that the library gives. This is where I'm going to get emotional. The space that the library gives to people who maybe don't fit in elsewhere. D&D, I'm going to get emotional. The changes I have seen in people playing D&D, drawing their own maps, taking on dungeon mastering and things like that. The changes you see in this, somebody that maybe didn't speak in first year, by the end of second year and playing D&D, they'll talk to you, they'll speak out loud. Autistic people, especially anybody neurodivergent, it's phenomenal.
It really does help people develop
Yeah.
social skills and come out of their shell.
Uh-huh.
For sure. It's not just, a pretend game. There's math. There is, problem solving. There is, my son who, spent most of COVID locked away, not really able to socialize with people, is learning so much about just general interactions because of D&D games. You know what I mean? And it's like he wanted to play a charisma character, and we let him front load the conversations a lot for us. You know what I mean? And he's been practicing and getting better at it. And I'm just proud of him because he was so nervous about just talking to people. You know what I mean?
I think this whole stuff, whether it's mapping, as I say, I've got kids asking for squared paper to draw their own maps now, because I have to have, when you have as many as that, I run a game, I've got another one running game, there's one person starting to learn Lancer, there's another person who's using Cyberpunk Red, actually. So that's some of the older pupils have decided to branch out. I just say I don't have time to do, I can't do it. But we have 4 D&D games. I use DA maps sometimes, usually from a Jingle Hill, but sometimes, but more often than not, it's just on a grid thing. It's, I don't know, it's phenomenal. I also have it mapped to the curriculum, but we have 2 lunchtime sessions and a Tuesday after school session, which is Curse of Strahd, actually, and that's more for older, more experienced players. And the Friday session is actually timetabled, basically. It is timetabled on the school timetable, because it's our after school, it's our Friday afternoon activities. They've been going in that school for since 1969.
Does the library have computers that you can install Dungeon Alchemist on? Or are they kind of locked down?
I could install them on them, but I think it might fry the computers.
Oh no. Yeah, I worry about that, because often school computers aren't necessarily the most powerful.
I did try it on my old PC. They've given me a laptop now, and I opened Roll20 with a DA map on it, and the poor laptop screaming.
Bummer.
I have used Roll20 in COVID. Within 2 weeks of the lockdown, I got permission through the school and the parents, and I think to run, I think it was Icewind Dale I ran on that, actually. I'm rubbish at running published modules, by the way, absolutely rubbish. But yeah, got permission from the school to run in Roll20 using Teams, and I ran for the 1.5, 2 years that we weren't able to have close contact. I was able to run for a small group of students on Roll20 with permission from the parents, and that was a lifesaver for us all as well.
I'm sure it was really helped keeping the club going too during that time.
Oh yeah, and then I think and then they all came back, and we're all. I can't remember how we played when we came back. I think we just had the tables separate, and we just had to do theatre of the mind because we couldn't really reach over and do maps and things. But it worked. It worked.
Lizzie Plant over on Facebook said, I had a Finnish friend who is a teacher and used D&D there. He used D&D to teach topics around it. Teachers there have a lot of say in how they teach. Interesting.
Oh, wouldn't be able to hear. I've actually I've suggested that actually as I say, I've got them mapped to our curriculum for excellence outcomes. So my activity is mapped to that. And I've actually said, because if you've got students who are not talking in class or won't speak in front of somebody, but then is absolutely the most wonderful character in D&D, why can't they come, a teacher, if they had time or space, to come and just quietly watch this child, and they would pass the talk element of their literacy. You know what I mean? And I have actually had to. There was one time I had a conversation about fantasy and D&D with a student in school, and I actually did have to write a report for the English teacher because they just couldn't get anything out of him. I'm not a teacher; I'm a librarian, so that's different. But it's just, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're able to connect with students like this, and help them with the various aspects of just learning, social skills, problem solving, etc. And I'm
And
actually
watching
so
them.
happy that you continue to do that. I love it actually.
Mhm.
And you have Dungeon Alchemist support if you need any here and there,
Thank
the
you.
way we can. That's why I was asking if there's any other computers that could run DA. Maybe we could get you a couple more copies.
If only budgets are so tight now. All my PCs are now laptops. I must admit, yeah. So there's sadly absolutely no way they would run, and I don't even think I don't know what I'd have to make a huge justification. I just don't think they would. Heck, I'm not
No
even getting a
worries.
printer. But
It's no big deal. We just want to help if we can, but I understand it's kind of hard in
Yeah.
school space because they either have very specific rules about third-party software or, Steam in particular because it's like links to games and chats and other things. So I understand. No big deal.
I think that something like that would possibly, to a certain extent, work. Right, the Steam might be an issue.
There is a way to
But I do
install
recommend
DA
it.
and then just run it independent of Steam, but yeah,
I do recommend
offline.
it to them, though, especially the keen ones. At the end of the day, we've got a few keen ones.
Okay, so I think we covered all the questions, and or at least all of them we have time for today because we've ran quite long. I appreciate you being here and hanging out with us for the last hour or so, Highland L4ss. You are such an amazing part of our community, such a great cartographer, and I just love hearing about your school club and all the things you do to enrich the youth around you and help them. Not just that, but I loved hearing about you as a cartographer and your process and your mindset towards map making. I want to say thank you from myself and the dev team, but also on behalf of our community.
Thank you too.
Can we get a big warm thank you and just let's just a warm exit, if we will, for our friend Highland L4ss, so she knows what your thoughts were on the stream today and the time spent with her today. Sack just said something. Oh, when the school library switched its lone computer from 3.1 to 95, the queue was out the door, and I was very jealous.
When we got, that's actually brought back another memory. My memory's not necessarily always very great, but quite early on, I started off with an Apple Mac and a BBC Micro, and then when we got Windows whatever, probably 3.1. Oh no, it would have been Win 95 actually, because we didn't have PCs. And when we eventually got a PC, for some reason or other, we got Myst and Riven, and that was my gateway into video games.
I think a lot of those were preloaded on those PCs for a couple of years.
We got our ones are still were on CD, and I have actually still got the CDs for Riven.
Oh, cool! Very cool. Myst and Riven, crucial childhood memories of not being able to figure out the game.
Yeah, that queue out the door thing was absolutely right. Everybody wanted to play it, and we had oh gosh, there was some sort of American-y, Western-y thing with the Cotton Eye Joe music. Oh, what was it called? But we had a few video games which probably wouldn't be allowed now. But yeah.
Oh, the Cotton Eye Joe sped up, and it's like, is that what you're talking about? So Asgard says, you can pretty simply use Family View to determine what users can install from Steam. So that might be a way to kind of protect it. I was going to also suggest if there's a computer lab in your school, they might have more nice computers that are like more powerful and might allow you to use that there or install a couple copies there. Because when I was in school, the computer lab always had the newest computers, right?
Yes, that's
so. But we used to sneak games on our computers in school, But our teacher was really cool about it because he loves supporting kids like doing whatever on computers and learning about them and understanding them. That was also before they got way more locked down than they are now in school. But I remember playing Shadow Warrior on my computer at school. Probably shouldn't have been playing that. Also Duke Nukem and Serious Sam and a few other games that I shouldn't have played. But also I was in an advanced computer class, and our teacher was teaching us Microsoft Certified Professional, all sorts of stuff like in the late 90s, early 2000s. And we were allowed, we had a drive that we could install games on and play once we finished our daily lessons. So you never know, the teacher in your lab there might be chill and be cool with it. And
I might have a nosy, I've just noted it down because you almost think something like Dungeon Alchemist would be a really great teaching tool on 3D stuff.
I think it is, and the devs really want to break into the educational aspects of DA with schools and clubs. And so, if there is an interest there, or you can, find out a way if they'd be cool with it, we'd be definitely able to help you out with a few, a couple copies at least to test it and see how it goes. We'll talk about that more later. That being said, I think we've covered at least most of the questions we had today, and I want to let you, enjoy your evening because I know it's getting late there. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today, Highland L4ss. A lot of comments in chat. Thank you for sharing your story. Wolfen says, can't wait for our next game weekend. Tropism says, thank you for being part of the team, or part of the stream. And then we've got Lilandra says, thank you for being here today. I love your maps. Pike says, thank you, Highland L4ss. You rock the house. So much kind words and positivity as we
cry. I cry lots, by the way, these days.
Oh, goodness. You know what, though? This is such well-deserved compliments. You're such a positive person and so passionate about your map making and the things you do. So well-deserved. Lizzie over on Facebook says, thank you. Amazing work. Chim's doing some snapping and says, thank you. Swedish Cook says, thank you for all the beautiful maps. Honestly, I think, our community just generally loves you and has positive feelings towards you.
I love the community. All I can say is I don't have very many Discord stuff, but this is my own Discord, and this one is probably the one that I look at the most. Well, this is the one I look at the most. It's an everyday looking, so it's...
Let's see, how is that for our chat? Is that the case for most of you, the Discords you attend or look at the most? Probably your own personal one and DA? Let's raise of hands if that's the case for most of you here. Or for yourself. You only have the one and it's Dungeon Alchemist. Way to go, Sack. Represent.
I just think with all that I see online and all I hear working in a school and things like that, it's... to have a community like this, everyone is so friendly and nice to each other. And then you see stuff, even in game communities on Facebook or whatever, it's not always nice.
It's crazy how communities are so off-putting to people being in their community. Like, I've tried to join some subreddits just to ask questions about a community I was new to, and they'd be like, just Google it, kid. It's like, people are here because they are hoping to find a brotherhood or camaraderie and learn from other people who have experience, not be shut out. You know what I mean? And I love that about our community is we are so open and inviting. Sorry, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, but you as community manager, and especially all your mods on that, they do an amazing job. At the end of the day, I'm sitting there thinking, I couldn't do what they do. Because they're always on the ball when somebody has an issue or whatever. It's incredible.
We try to foster a positive space that's inviting for all that, are respectful to others and, their backgrounds and whatnot. So I think we've definitely created a space where, people feel welcome and not like it's a hostile environment at all. You know what I mean?
Brilliant.
I think some of us have a bad day here and there in the Discord or on the stream, but for the most part, we are, we're humans. We definitely are bound to have an issue with, each other or with anything here and there. But the fact of the matter is our Discord is probably one of the most positive and wholesome spaces on the internet, bar none.
I think this is the first Discord I probably joined, other than when I first got invited to play in a D&D game back in 2017. So,
you know, it's funny. I read reviews and see, like, you know, the negative side of Dungeon Alchemist here and there, and there's some reviews that are like, oh, their community is not inviting at all, and I'm like, wait, what?
what?
You know, like, I'm like, wait, how? When did this happen? What happened that you didn't feel invited? And I just know we can't make everyone happy. There's bound to be someone who maybe didn't feel welcome or, you know, feel like they were part of the group. And I hope we're not cliquey or make people feel like like it's hard to really break the shell of our community and be welcome. Anyone can join our Discord, start talking and asking questions today, and you will find it's a wholesome, friendly environment where everyone wants to get to know you and share ideas and insight. I love our GM chat. I see every day in there someone's asking questions or bouncing ideas off of the GMs and DMs there. It's just so wholesome, you know? Anyway, thank you again for being here, Highland L4ss. You enjoy your evening. I appreciate you so very, very much. It's been an honor to have you here today. You enjoy your night, and we will chat more in the future. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Bye. I'm going to disconnect you here, and we're going to move on with the stream. Thank you again. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye. Thank you, folks.
Here, disconnecting. Okay. Fantastic, everyone. That was so much fun to have her on. Let me get the music going again. Probably going to have to turn that way down. 1 second. There we go. It was much too loud. I don't know. I think sometimes people have an axe to grind if, you know, something doesn't necessarily always go their way. Like, I wouldn't say we are hostile to anyone in the server when they first come in, but if people come in and the first thing they do is kind of get hostile to, you know, the server itself, there can be people who are defensive of our community and like the space we've set up. But there's also been people who come in and just like immediately are hostile to the people there. You know what I mean? But yeah, there was a while, especially when forums first loaded out, where people were particularly standoffish to, you know, going to the question forum and using that space as requested, as the server rules guide you to. And I understand, you know, using this new service or not wanting to use the space. And I think I got to a point where I was very, let's just say, direct when people, you know, were joining and I'd tell them to use the forum. And for a while I could see how that would be very, you know, for a new person could be perceived as not necessarily friendly, you know. I think sometimes there's always going to be someone you can't make happy, right? They may expect a certain thing and it just doesn't go that way. I don't know. Plenty of people were fine with it and they move over and create a new thread and it wouldn't be a problem and we'd move on. Some people were very harsh and like pushed back on it, you know? But like someone came in once and then like got upset, right? And I go back and look at the conversation and I try to look and try to understand why they got upset. It wasn't even the question for them. I think because like they were told that we know that, and there's not a solution right now to their problem, you know? So it's like, because there wasn't an answer, they were upset and left a very bad review that's like super negative and I don't know. What do? You can't please everyone. You know what I mean? But their review is about their experience in our Discord, not about the product. I know I have one of those faces that people just want to punch. So I'm not necessarily people's most favorite person to see on the stream. We're going to move on to the damn questions segment. I know a lot of you have questions related to Dungeon Alchemist, not necessarily for our interviewee that we had on the stream. Here's the thing, as the community manager, I can't make everyone happy. I learned that a long time ago. There's going to be some people who I just rub the wrong way. You know what I mean? And there's going to be some people who I become best friends with. Tropism, that's a good question. I'm not sure if it'll be a feature like roofing that'll be legacy and not work in older maps, or if it'll be a feature like abstract lighting that works in any old map but was added in Fun with Objects 1. Typically, most features are backwards compatible. However, some like that, it's case by case. The first time we ever ran into an issue with backwards compatibility was the roofing feature. So statistically speaking, 99.999% of all features we add, quality of life improvements, work in older maps. I have had some complaints about mods, but I will not say who and why how. I'm sure people complain about me. I'm sure. And it's not like they can complain to me, so they probably go right to the devs. Like, there's been a few complaints here and there. Like, I've had the devs come to me about complaints and we discussed it. You know, it's just the nature of the job. Being a front-facing community person, I'm bound to rub someone the wrong way, or they are irritated by my voice or my face or the way I do things or how I run streams or whatever, you know? It's bound to happen. This one is actually a tropism map. I just had this pulled up because we were going to be looking at forts and whatnot later. I just think it's a nice backdrop. Tropism made this map. So, do we have any Dungeon Alchemist related questions, needing support, have inquiries about our product or upcoming development? That's what this segment is about right now. I have some questions that were actually from our Steam that I'd like to bring up and discuss, and from our Reddit. So I'm going to start with those while we're waiting. So there was quite a few people who asked this question on our Steam, and I think on Reddit in the past as well. We'll address them all simultaneously. Is sci-fi planned at all? Well, there'll be a sci-fi module soon. I will say what the devs have said to me, and numerous times when they've been on the stream. Our commitment in Dungeon Alchemist right now is to delivering on all our Kickstarter stretch goals. Dungeon Alchemist, if you don't know, was conceived as a Kickstarter. And that's where we got our initial interest, our initial burst of funding to help build the product, right? And we had a bunch of stretch goals, i.e. commitment levels with our Kickstarter, that if we raised X amount of funds, we'd bring this aspect, this update, this planned update to Dungeon Alchemist. So we're working on the Fun with Objects portion, and then, so we have 4.5 major stretch goals until we leave early access. Once we've delivered on all those stretch goals, we essentially will leave early access, and then at that point, the devs have stated numerous times they plan to offer optional paid expansions. So once we've delivered on all our promises from Kickstarter, we'll still continue to offer quality of life improvements, feature updates, etc. However, things that were never promised as part of our initial, development. In fact, we really were essentially going to be fantasy only, but there's been so many suggestions and requests around, say, cyberpunk, sci-fi, modern, horror themed, whatever. We'll likely dive into those one at a time, and the expansion would be optional for anyone who has Dungeon Alchemist. It's an add-on, and how it would work is likely you'd get dozens, if not hundreds of new room types, hundreds of thousands of objects, doors, windows, walls, floors, roofing, tokens, etc., that are all themed around that aesthetic, and then it would just plug into the Dungeon Alchemist architecture. I personally would like it if it was built in and just added into all the existing interface, and so it's the same interface, and then you have all the same objects, but then also that theme. That's me, but some people may want to switch, that you could flick between, go to the sci-fi mode, and so it really only shows the sci-fi stuff. That being said, it's so far out at this point, we're talking 2-3 years minimum, that it'll likely, I don't have much more information than this. How will it work? How much will be included? When will it be released? We still have our major stretch goals remaining, those 4.5 updates before we can even dive into this. So it'll be a while. So that answers a couple of questions. Related to that, will there be other styles of assets? Will there be DLC that kind of brushes on that? Cyberpunk, sci-fi, etc. We'll probably be releasing those one after another, and that will be the continued support of Dungeon Alchemist. We'll still improve the product, add new stuff in the base, quality of life features, expansions, and stuff will be continuing the product life. And then there will also likely be a paired product that would essentially be Dungeon Alchemist's own VTT, a separate tool that would allow you to get the most out of your Dungeon Alchemist maps while running a game. So what that means remains to be seen. That's just what I've been told. Now, that will be kind of our future with Dungeon Alchemist after the base product is complete, at least from the Kickstarter aspect. Okay, next question is from Steam. Check the roadmap, was wondering, didn't see there if you've given any thought to Square. Give any thought? Not only exporting maps with a hex grid, let's see, but also building maps on a hex grid, changing the tile brush shape from square to hexes. I'm not sure what they're asking for here. So I do know that we obviously have the square grid. We also have the ability to change the grid from a square to a hex, and you can change the size of the hex. I'm assuming instead of building with squares, they want to build with hexes, hex-shaped tiles. To be honest with you, I have not heard the devs discuss this at all. I don't think it's something that they're working on or plan to work on at the moment. But what I would recommend is we have a suggestion board on the feature-based website. And can we add that link here in chat? We'll also try to add the link with the video when we share it. The roadmap we have is also, that website is our roadmap, but also a suggestion board. So you can add suggestions. If there's not one like that already, you may want to add it. And that way, the devs might consider it. The more people interested in a suggestion, commenting on it, upvoting it, the more likely it is to be implemented. So if one already exists, a similar suggestion, you may want to add your comment and vote to that one instead of creating a new one. So search first to see if one exists, and then go from there. Okay. So I already addressed a lot of the upper questions related to expansions. So, okay, this next one, are there any plans? This question is from Pixel King on Steam. Shoot. Let's see here. It froze here, so I couldn't see the question. Any plans on making it possible to export a 3D render of a map. Would love to be able to import a full 3D map into something like Tabletop Simulator. So on the surface level, as a suggestion, this sounds great. But when you break it down, it's actually really not viable for several reasons. First off, Dungeon Alchemist, we're not really ever planning to offer 3D exports, and there's a reason behind that. And by that, I mean full 3D model exports. Dungeon Alchemist just wasn't created with that in mind. The foundations of the environments and the assets themselves weren't created with that in mind, and so we essentially have to gut Dungeon Alchemist from its foundations up and redesign it to cater to this need. It's kind of a niche need for full 3D maps. There really is only like Tabletop Simulator and a module in Foundry that's third party. There is, several 3D map VTTs, but they're kind of all locked into their own ecosystem. So like Tailspire, you make the map there, and then you can play in their VTT that's attached to the system. Unfortunately, though, Dungeon Alchemist just wasn't designed with 3D export in mind, so a lot of our assets and environments are smoke and mirrors. Simple 3D shapes with really nice, what amounts to wallpaper splattered on it. So while it looks like beautiful tiles and bricks and, roofing, it's really just a flat shape with like a really nice, like wallpaper on it for all intents and purposes. So if you were to export this as a 3D model, it would just be a big gray blob with like some minor details to it. Like a kind of a flattened gray shape with no tile in grooves or indentations, no indentations for the brick. So 3D printing it or exporting it for a 3D model in, a virtual tabletop, or, exporting it for, say, using in a game engine, it just won't work. It's gonna lack all detail, and you'll have to go in and paint it and add a bunch of stuff by hand. So it kind of negates the point of saving time building maps in Dungeon Alchemist. At the end of the day, it was designed for top-down play, and so that's why we exported the maps for that purpose. I know a lot of people don't necessarily agree with that, but that was the devs' vision. They wanted to make a map maker that was 3D, so it allows you to more abstractly build your maps and see the environment at different angles, and then export it in top-down for play. But if you still want to experience those other angles, you can use the cinematic camera up here in the top for, a drone camera to get in and out of everywhere of your map to get all sorts of videos for clips or screenshots to use, and both of those can be used for handouts for your players. So you're not wasting that 3D angle, not necessarily if you don't want to. You can also place a token in your map, walk around the map in first person and experience it for your players in that regard, stream this to them or record videos to give them. Again, a great way to experience this environment in the 3D that it's given. I can understand the frustration and concern about why we don't intend to make it 3D exportable. I hope you understand our reasoning behind it, though. Okay, moving on. Do we have questions coming in from the stream? Has there been any questions? Sorry, the stream chat feed's been moving, and so I might have missed some. Okay, I'll just keep answering questions from the document I have. It's a Google Sheet. Next, Silver Fox on Reddit asks, I have a few questions, actually. Is there plans to make items lockable? I know why you want this, so you don't accidentally grab the object and move it, or when there's multiple objects by each other, it's kind of hard to grab a specific object, because often the collider of the object's much larger than the object itself, the collider being the invisible box that tells Dungeon Alchemist how big that object is, roughly. So, that said, I understand the reason for this, and I've been begging the devs for this for a while. So as people in our community. I have gotten no traction as to whether or not it'll be added anytime soon, though I do think there is interest in allowing it, especially when they see merit in it. Just recently, this question was asked on a stream when we had one of the lead designers, or the creator of Dungeon Alchemist, on the stream. And I brought it up with him during the stream as to why it's a good idea, and we should just add like a lock icon to the UI so someone can just, like they can trash something, they can lock it. And then that way, if it's locked, It won't be moved. It can't be deleted, even by accident. And, you can place other objects by it and you won't accidentally touch its collider. Now, the question becomes, how do you unlock it if you can't touch it? That's a concern. So I would say, holding control and clicking or right clicking on it versus, say, left clicking on it might unlock it, something like that. There are some things to take into account for how it will work within our existing architecture. And yes, our community has been asking for this for years. I think with time, it'll likely be added, but I can't speak to as when because I haven't seen it being worked on personally. Iskaur from Reddit. Oh, no, wait. There was another question from Silver Fox. Next question. I guess there was only one question in there, so I guess that was it. Never mind. Are there any plans to make multiplayer options, hosting game sessions in the maps in first person? There is a talks, rumblings, discussions about a partner, like a companion app that would pair with Dungeon Alchemist, a virtual tabletop made by us for our maps specifically, as they're very unique and different from most other map making tools on the market. What that would entail and how it will work, it remains to be seen. Mostly what I've heard is the devs want to keep it as a simple app to kind of facilitate things like Fog of War, maybe some dice rolls and stuff like that, but I don't know. Will it have character sheet management, inventory management? Will you be able to explore the maps in first person as your character? Who knows? That's up in the air because it's so far out right now. Can't really speak to it fully. So as it stands, yes, the devs are interested. When? Don't know. What? Don't know. Okay. Next question is from Steam. It's Alec L. Is it possible to refund this if someone pledged and got the software from Kickstarter? Frankly, it's not better than free alternatives, and my only laptop can't run this anyway. So if you bought it as a Kickstarter, there's probably no way to refund it. You should have done that a while ago. Steam has a 2-hour refund window for applications purchased on Steam. I assume Kickstarter is likely, a little bit bigger than that, but it's been a couple of years now, 3-4 years since the Kickstarter. So it's been a while. It's probably way beyond that return window. That being said, Dungeon Alchemist, it does have minimum specs and requirements to run the application, which the application has grown with time and probably doesn't run as smoothly as it would, say, on a simple laptop versus, say, a desktop. One thing to take into account, the size of a map you make can make all the difference. So if your laptop struggles with a map, you may want to shrink the map size to allow, to work within the computer specs you currently have. Also, remember, Dungeon Alchemist is a lifetime license, so if you get a better computer later, it may run it, better for you down the road. I know these aren't necessarily the best selection or best suggestions, but it's the only ones I have given the situation. Remember, when you're zoomed in on a map, the closer you are zoomed into the area, the less strain it puts on your computer. The reason that is, Dungeon Alchemist loads the entire environment in real time. This isn't a video game. Video games are pre-rendered environments, so they tend to put a lot less burden on a computer than, say, a real-time 3D render engine. So if you're building your map in 3D, the further you are zoomed out, the more lighting and effects and detail it has to load, which slows down your frame rate. So zoom in on the map area you're working on. Try to keep your map small and tight until you can upgrade your machine. Even a simple thing like a RAM upgrade on a laptop can go a long way in improving the performance in maps. Question from Chim on Twitch. What was the product proof before Kickstarter? How much of it even been made? The devs had a basic program, like an actual working map maker. before they went to Kickstarter. And I think that's part of the reason it was so successful, is they actually had like a working product and some videos to showcase. I wasn't part of the team back then, though. I wasn't there for the Kickstarter, so I don't know a whole lot about that era of DA. I only know what I've heard and secondhand accounts from our community, etc. To my best knowledge, and based on what's visible on the Kickstarter, they already had a working product to a degree and were showcasing, you know, video from it. The trailer for the video launch for Dungeon Alchemist obviously had some video editing in it to make it seem more, you know, fluid and, you know, lots of rooms going across at the same time, etc. But it has changed a lot since then. They've essentially, because of multi-level, they had to redesign everything from the ground up to support it. So a lot's changed. But yes, they had a proof of concept. And that's part of the reason I think that Dungeon Alchemist was so popular as a Kickstarter, because we just had something working to share right away. You know what I mean? And the timeline wasn't very bad either. The forced Unity upgrade was a big one, man. Oh, man. Hey, Stormy, how you doing? Welcome back. Okay, next question. This one's from Span Yell on Steam. Will you be adding rooms that are angled rooms that aren't just 45 degrees? I'm confused by that. We have all sorts of angles of rooms. As you in this map here, you can see, you know, square angles, 45-degree angles, rounded angles. And if you want, you can shape your buildings in all sorts of different ways. So remember, when you pull on this side, these are definitely not just 45-degree angles here. This is much wider than a 45-degree angle. Only really gets to 45 or, like, you know, at certain positions. So when you're making a room, remember, it's square by default, but you can grab these little dots in the corner. If you pull straight towards the center, it does round, you know, cuts. Or alternatively, you pull outward, it does round bites. So convex or concave bites. And then if you pull to the side, you can make diagonal cuts. So depending on the shape, that is all 45. Isn't this much wider than 45 degrees? That's what I'm looking at right here. See, I may not understand what they're saying then. See, this is what I'm thinking of. Almost all of these angles are possible. Okay, then I'm just completely wrong, I guess. Areas, yes, but the angles sadly are not. So they're all derived of a multiple of 45. Gotcha. Then I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm sorry. I don't know then. I can't speak to this fully. But my understanding is our generation system is dependent on the grid. So essentially there has to be some sort of like 1:1:2:2:3:3 ratio for all structures, which might lean to that being part of the problem. That being said, I again, you always get half squares. Gotcha. So when I was looking at that shape, a lot of those angles are different from 45 to me, but I guess I'm just kind of misinterpreting how they want it to be. Because yes, this is a 90-degree angle is what I'm seeing here. But when I pull this, that end, yeah, we're getting like down to 45, but this side here is much wider and open than a 45-degree angle. The alligator mouth is huge there. So that's what I was thinking. Maybe they were just missing these. Oh, got you. So if it's derived of a 45-degree angle, that's the problem. Got you. So it can't be a multiplication of it, like doubling or tripling or whatever, in order that would be able to get you more different shapes and whatnot for your housing. Is there an example of a structure that has these angles that you would like to share with me, or like an image? I feel like I completely botched that question, but we're going to move on. Your mom on Steam, what a name. Especially when you can change it anytime. Very interested and unsure how to use it after building maps. I get you can print them, I can screen share them, have my players move around it. I mean, can I screen share from my laptop? Have a virtual D&D table, basically a TV on its back with a frame around it? Yes. So Dungeon Alchemist maps are designed to be used however you want to play. Whether it's printed maps or virtual tabletops online or in person. So there is tools online like Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, Foundry, Above VTT, etc. These tools, some are free, some cost. They essentially allow you to import a map into them, and then the map runs the gameplay. So you build the map in Dungeon Alchemist, right? And then you would run the game externally of Dungeon Alchemist in like a third-party tool, i.e. a printed map, or in your case, if you have a TV tabletop, you could export the map as a video loop or an image, and then just have that image or video playing on the TV. Now, that being said, with TV tabletops, if you have a computer that can run large maps and all the effects in them, it might be worth your time if you're running it from like a laptop or a computer to your TV. You could just hide the UI and run the game directly in Dungeon Alchemist. The problem is you won't have like Fog of War or anything like inventory management, you know, but if you're running like a kind of bare bones game where everyone has their own dice, you know all the rules and they have to roll and you do all the math manually and all that stuff, like a traditional game, then yeah, there's no reason you can't use Dungeon Alchemist to run the game. But keep in mind, you probably want to keep it at a certain height, kind of be back where they can't see into certain areas, or have the whole map up so it's like they can't see inside until they actually get inside. Now, you could cover part of the screen with like a sheet, you know, construction paper. I've seen people actually cut out roofing and put it on stuff, etc. So you have ways to play like that in person with Dungeon Alchemist. Alternatively, you could use one of those software tools I mentioned earlier, like Foundry, Fantasy Grounds, etc., and that will automatically give Fog of War to your players if they haven't been into that place. So if they're outside the castle, they wouldn't necessarily know even what's in the courtyard until they have actually been inside, and the Fog of War would peel back, revealing it. Hey, Shlomo, how you doing? Okay. You know what? I'm gonna have to wrap up the question segment. We ran a little bit long with the interview today, which is totally fine. But I also, you know, need to make sure that we cover all our segments. So we answered a lot of questions today. Was there any other it was Highland L4ss. Yeah, the interview was about an hour long. We've been doing the question segment for the last, 20 minutes or 30 minutes or so. Hey, don't swear in here. You can say the other damn, but not that one. Lalandra asked about more traps and hidden doors. Where is that question? Lilandra, what did you say? Can you repeat it really quick? I want to make sure I get it. You can always watch the I tried in above VTT and couldn't get the distance right. What do you mean, Shlomo? The distance. So I know the devs have heard a lot of requests related to secret doors, right? Or at least, you know, the hatches that match the walls. It would be great to get at least a few more or a few every update. I haven't heard any commitments from them to do that, but I can bring it up with the devs. Okay, and I'm not sure how you're having trouble matching that up. That's what I'm trying to say. So it should match automatically if you're using the UVTT imports and you set to 5 feet. Should match. I have played with theirs quite a bit, but it's been a while since I've looked at it, so I'll probably have to take a closer look. But yeah, they if it's set to 5 foot squares in above. Gotcha. So when you do the UVTT imports, that's where our more direct support for above is. If you do the export, like under the export menu, set it to above VTT. Look, go to above in here. It exports a UVTT file. It's called a DDVTT2 or something like that, or DD2VTT. And it's an image file that also has all the data for the walls, windows, and doors and stuff. And it should, as long as you set to 5 feet, match perfectly. But when you're importing on above, also make sure you use the UVTT importer, not the above VTT, or not the image importer. They're two separate aspects of the importer. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but I do know that for sure. I need to set up a new campaign on my D&D Beyond to even look at it. I deleted it because I needed space recently. Anyway, okay, so we're going on to our next segment here in the stream, which is the damn workshop, which we're going to be highlighting some maps that I kind of handpicked from the workshop, primarily forts and keeps. I think forts are a very crucial part of campaign progression. You'll eventually run into one fort or one keep, most likely, if not more. There's a great assortment on the workshop, and more being added every week. Did that help, Shlomo? But yeah, I would hope we create a mentality that, like, hey, if you're struggling with DA, drop in the streams and Mac will help you out. You know what I mean? Like, it should be the mentality that, like, or in the Discord, Mac will help you out, or in, you know, our community will help you out. That if you need help, you can drop into any of these spaces and get, you know, live support. Let's find out which biome we're in. It looks like Badlands, if I had to guess. Badlands, for sure. Yeah, the name kind of implies the biome also, for sure. Tropism, I love this because there's really not many forts that aren't just like the gray stone, right? Like, brick being the fort structure is very unique. Also, yes, the design is really well done. Highland L4ss, is so crazy seeing you in chat now after talking with you for an hour. I really like how you put a room underneath within to make it a pointier roof instead of like the rounded kind of blob roof. You have the spire feel. And that's because here he has a separate room, technically, in this space where the stair is. So after the stream's done, Dag, it'll be available to watch on Twitch and YouTube from the start. It's called Fort Badlands, Eric. Welcome, by the way, my friend. How are you doing? You did that to avoid a roofing issue. I think it looks really unique and interesting. Because usually the roofs would be like extended and more kind of blobby or flat in the center. Just staying busy. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Oh. One of these, it goes buggy if you try to put one of those on. Well, I like the roof you put here. I think it looks great. But I mean, here you have like, it's like a ledge, like a crenulation for defenses. I like how you put the little, you know, the ballista there. No ladder to get up, but they'll figure it out, I'm sure. It really does help solve the problem of weird geometry of roofs if it isn't looking right. Or if it, you know, kind of breaks the roof and looks awkward. I like putting these little points too for extra crenul, like more like rooftop vibes for sure. It looks neat. I didn't know you were like a carpenter, Dag. Woodworker, really amateur. I like this little area out here too. Like the little wooden additions. You make pens. I think we might have talked about this before. My neighbor in my old home in Vegas across the street made wooden pens on his lathe all the time. He'd like, you know, get the pen kits, the really nice ones, and then he'd roll out some wooden pens. He'd get some nice wood that was like really expensive. He was selling those pens for like hundreds of dollars, dude. Ridiculous. Very cool, Shlomo. See, that's exactly the way it's intended to be used because then it gets all the data. I will warn you, though, there are limitations for UVTT. One of them being if the map is extra large, like if you have lots of windows, doors, it might get overwhelmed and not label them all. So it's best to just remember there is an upper limit to the UVTT format. Also, currently, it doesn't support any animated maps, but I don't think above did before anyway. If I'm not mistaken, it was just still image. Anyway, so now you get all the data. The grid should align. You got walls, windows, doors, and lighting. Yeah, typically if the map is too large or you exported it too high of a DPI, it'll show it as black. This courtyard is so good. And I just like all the like impromptu little places. Here's a bed, here's a bed, here's a, you know, it seems like people are in here, might be a siege soon or something. By small, I'm not necessarily file size, but grid size. Like how big is the map? Like, you know, if it's 100 by 100, it might be too big. If there's like hundreds of rooms on the map, it might be too many doors and windows for it to recognize. So just keep that in mind. I did all our testing when it came to above VTT because I was pushing for it to be added because I wanted a free virtual tabletop tool in our list. Because we have all these tools, and at the time, Fantasy Grounds didn't offer a free option. It was more like just a demo. And then Roll20 had their free one, but you didn't get the most out of DA. And obviously Foundry is, you know, $45. So people were like, oh, I really wish there was a free option. I saw above VTT, a lot of people were asking me about it. I connected with the dev team there because they're like volunteers. And they worked with us and they adopted the UVTT format and we incorporated an export for them to work around it. So essentially I took and built maps with hundreds of rooms, every wall type, every door, every window, and put hundreds of rooms on a map just to see like where the ceiling was, like the limit. Yeah, they're good people, really good people. I haven't chatted with them recently, but Above VTT is a great tool, especially if you're looking for a free virtual tabletop. And one of the biggest advantages of it is it links directly with the D&D B like website. So if you own any books or even the free stuff there, you can use the stat blocks for like monsters, and then you can set up a campaign on D&D B, and your players can be added to that campaign, and their tokens and all their data is run from D&D B. So their character sheet, their roles, their inventory management, but then the game is running above. It's very cool. Very cool. All right. Hey, Tropism, do you recall how long it took you to make this map? Before we move on. Yeah, I use the Google Drive option for Above VTT because I have one anyway, and if you just put your maps in there and set them to public, it works. But honestly, running it from the cloud is, I think, a little bit better than from your computer because it's less likely to have issues with your players. Yeah, Dropbox works pretty good too, for sure. This is a beautiful map, though, Tropism. I hope you do more forts in the future. I love this overhang right here. Like, so cool. That's the latrine drop. So real, dude. I'll grab it for you, Shlomo. One moment. We're going to move on to the next map here really quick. We'll probably showcase one more map, and then we're going to jump to our next segment. And yes, Asmodeus, I saw your post earlier about featuring assets. I'll try and do more of that in the future, okay, my friend? At the end of the day, I'm going to be, maps are kind of the priority because that's what Dungeon Alchemist is most about, right? But I do plan to showcase assets here and there when there is time. On interview days, it's a little bit harder because there's just so little time to cram in all the segments sometimes. But yeah, like on castles, latrines would have like a little overhang, right? Where, you'd be sitting and then it would just drop down the side onto the side of the castle or into the moat, making it even grosser. But the overhangs weren't always quite this large. But yeah, that works perfectly. It is kind of funny that there's like arrow slits, though, in the bathroom. But basically, they would just make it so it would just drop right out. Yeah, you definitely don't want to be shot in the rear while you're using the John. So you have someone cover you while you're So you could just sit and face forward or look out. Risky for both parties. Listen, the castle has team pooping as a law, so you could protect each other. This is ridiculous. It's funny though, Trumpet. I love it, man. That's hilarious. Oh goodness, Shlomo. Okay, moving on. We looked at Goodrich Castle a little bit earlier because Highland L4ss was on. So let's check out let's pick one of the other two. Silverleaf Keep or Black Valve Fortress. Which one do you want to look at? Come on, chat. Both. I don't have time for both. So 1. So we got 2 for silver, 1 for black Val. 2 for black Val. Oh, wait, no. I don't know. 3 for silver. Looks like we got... you can't change your... Dag, knock it off. You voted too many times. Okay, we're going to go to silver. Black Val Fortress does look good. I highly encourage you to check it out. It's actually a 2-part map. There's another map that goes with this one called Black Val Town that's tied to it. Silverleaf Keep, beautiful map, though. It was one of my favorite maps of last year. But yeah, they're both great maps. It's not like one of them is bad. They're both good maps. I just don't have time to share both. So you had to pick one. How's everyone's weekend going so far? Anything interesting happen or happening for you this weekend? Any fun events you're attending? This map is quite beautiful. They did a great job. The only thing, there's so many clouds to give it that realism, but then in the top down it covers a lot, so it ruins the export. You actually have to delete a lot of the clouds before you export. Otherwise, though, it's great. It's actually a very beautiful map. Simple little keep. Oh yeah, it definitely would pass for Elven. The symmetry of the map is quite beautiful, too. Oof. Dang, Dag. That sounds like a lot of work. Between that and the chair you're working on. This is just a stock object called Cloud. Pretty sure it's a stock object. There's a ring and a cloud. Dang, professionals doing the remodel. Gotcha. I think my favorite part of this is like the courtyard and the little towers. They did a really great job. But the courtyard is just stunning. For sure, the curvy walls and all the like different directions of everything. It has a certain aesthetic to it, though. My only complaint about this map, besides the clouds covering a lot of the map from above, is that I wish there was more environment around the outside, because this keep is a standalone just to the edge where it is. It's just says so much potential to be any environment around it. The only thing I ever made in origami was a crane when we read the book, like I think it was called like 10,000 Paper Cranes in elementary school, which was very traumatic. And then also, we used to make those little pyramid things that like the girls were obsessed with, and you'd open them and like say a number and pick a color, and then it would tell you like your future. Oh, we'd make origami. Origami footballs too, to play paper football in class. The book I was mentioning essentially goes into great detail of a survivor of the Hiroshima bombings, I believe, and how they got cancer and how they were fighting off their despair and depression by making 10,000 paper cranes. They also thought it would cure their cancer. It was a pretty depressing book for a child to read. Yes, I was 8. I think it's called 10,000. I think it's called 10,000 paper cranes. Hold on. Oh, no, it's the 1,000 paper cranes. Sorry. 1,000 paper cranes. And it's Sadako, and the 1,000 paper cranes. Really cool. At the high school level, that would make a lot more, even middle school level. You know what I mean? But in elementary school, I felt it was kind of a heavy subject matter. You know what I mean? This is such a beautiful map, though, for sure. Alrighty, we're going to move on from the map showcase, the dam showcase, and we're going to showcase, well, we're going to discuss features for the rest of the stream. I probably only have time to do one, though. So we're going to do that. And the feature I want to showcase today, which one do I want to do? I am torn. I'll probably just do the room tool. Well, you know what? Let's talk about universal object scaling, because I don't have a lock button to show, bro. I wish. Honestly, I always feel bad whenever you ask, because it's gone, no change has happened, at least anything I've seen. I have requested, I passed on community suggestions and requests related to it. I brought it up in any meeting I have with the devs. Just unfortunately, I don't know if it's not that it's high on their to-do, or they're just waiting for a certain point to actually develop it. You just you're giving me the guff, so to speak, giving me the business. Okay, so what I'll showcase as a feature we're going to discuss is universal object scaling. How's life, Dirty Rollers? I was lurking your stream the other day. I was busy working, so I didn't get a chance to say hi. Just casually listened for a few minutes as I was jumping between streams. And I couldn't help but notice you weren't using a Dungeon Alchemist map, and a single tear ran down my cheek. No, it was actually like a cityscape map, so it made sense on that scale. It was like a small cityscape map, like a town with some different structures, and the party was kind of split across the whole town, it seemed like. At that point in the stream, you weren't using the DA map. Seasons of Ghosts, is that what it was? Sorry. I just remember that they were all kind of split up doing different things. Remember, I was, like I said, working, so I wasn't fully paying attention, just kind of casually listening. I'll usually pull up a stream, you know, of someone that we follow, or if I see someone using DA, and listen while I'm working, just to keep my mind not necessarily, like, it helps me, I don't know, having sound in the background helps me focus sometimes. Other times it makes it harder to focus. I don't get it. But when I'm working, like taking screenshots or writing, it's nice to have just something going on in the background. But yeah, I think it was Seasons of Ghosts. Oh, nice. I bet you that saves you a lot of time having a pre-configured module with everything in it. That's really cool, actually. You know, we have such a great relationship with Paizo. It'd be interesting, like, because like we did, like at their PaizoCon or whatever, I did like a panel once. I think it'd be fun to maybe talk to them and see if they want to incorporate some DA maps in a module, like a future module, and we could maybe pair with them and work out the maps, or maybe commission creators to make maps. Who knows? We'll see. Just an idea, of course. Okay, back to the feature I wanted to showcase before we wrap up the stream. So in our last update, we added an advanced feature to the object menu. It's the only advanced feature right there currently, besides the collision toggle, which many of you know about. Collision toggle, totally different subject though. The object scaling in the object menu essentially sets every object in this menu, aside from ones that are ones affixed to the ground, like they make a pit. So if you have an object with like a lock on it that doesn't resize, that would be the exception. But, or like a circle with like a line through in it saying that you can't resize it. If you do want to rescale all the objects in the object menu simultaneously to a new size, you can do so using this tool. So I'm going to place just a normal scale, 100%. Let's grab this same object at 50%. Now let's go to 200%. Instead of having to manually scale the objects one at a time, now every object in the object menu is attributed with this percentage. So you could set all your objects to be much smaller. If maybe you're making a hobbit village, or you just need smaller scale, you know, like a halfling village or a goblin village, or anything where everything is smaller and more to their sizing, this would be a great way to quickly do that. As of right now, there is no option for that. There's no nudge or the ability to, you know, set a number. It would be great, don't get me wrong, especially for accessibility reasons. Like, that's the main way I'll push it, is something the devs should add. Not necessarily always a feature request, but an accessibility request. Because people who don't have full use of their hands or use accessibility apps, it would be very hard for them to get like these fine-tuned things. And often I think just even adding a field to enter in the number, or, you know, allowing you to use the arrow keys when you're in this menu would be great. It should override the camera and let you use the arrows to go left one, right one. But this particular feature is very great in speeding up object placement, because every object now follows that parameter. The downside of this feature is it isn't currently linked to room generation. So when you generate a room with objects in it, they'll all just be their normal scale. They don't follow the universal object scaling or advanced object scaling. I do think, though, that with time, I'm hoping this will link to that. So you, or even have an attribute like that in here, like so you could set the object scale before you generate the room. For sure, Tropism, I understand your concerns, man. Like, I get it. It isn't necessarily, like, we need some fine-tuning with objects to increase their overall, like the versatility for how you move them and adjust them. One thing that definitely is on the horizon, kind of, that'll make objects easier to work with, is being able to rotate them on any axis, which is something they're working on right now behind the scenes. I've seen demos of it. Very excited for the future of that. I know that isn't necessarily to object scaling, but I think we're getting into more fine-tuning of controls of Dungeon Alchemist finally. Instead of just general controls, it's now the advanced fine-tuned controls, which means things like nudge, typing in, angles or percentages likely on the horizon. Ugh! As someone who suffers from light carpal tunnel myself, I totally get it. Remember, that suggestion is on our suggestion board. If you haven't already, go upvote it, comment on it, because it algorithmically boosts it and brings it more up to the top so other people can see it and vote on it and comment on it. So the more a suggestion gets interacted with, the more likely it will be implemented. Just it's simple numbers game. All right, everyone. I showcased this feature to the, at least simply enough for our benefit. And remember, you can hit percentages between 100 and 200 or 50% and 200. And they do kind of snap at 100 or at the edges a little bit, so it's easier to at least get back to that point. But yes, it would be nice if like a left click or holding it with left click and an arrow nudged it or something. I agree. We need more fine-tuned controls, not just for this menu, but objects itself. Object nudging would be great. It is a pain to move it by hand by holding the left click. Once it's selected, I should be able to move it with the arrow, or hold control and move it with the arrow or shift. It doesn't seem to work with grass. If there's any objects that you ever find that don't, let me know. Send me an image of the object with its name, like highlighting it. You mean with terrain or with objects, though? It should work with pretty much almost all objects in the object menu, 99% or more. But if it's like a nature object like grass in here, yeah, it might not. I don't know. No, it works. It's working right now. I'm confused. Huh. Is it this object? 50% is the smallest it can go. Yeah, this is 50% here. This is 100 and this is 200. If you want smaller than that, you'll have to manually go smaller and then just copy paste. That or make a brush. Might have just been bugged out at the moment. And remember, like if you get a size you like and it isn't within the scales, you can always make a custom brush out of it. By selecting the object, going to the object menu, the second tab, which is the paint objects tab. As long as the object is selected, you can turn it into a brush and then paint it in mass, depending on your properties for how you have it set. Custom brushes, you can only have a one active custom brush at a time. So once, like if you move from this map to another save, I don't think the brush is saved still. You have to make a new one. I think it's just saved in like temporarily in the map while you're building it. It might have been the brush that you did it. Alrighty. But yeah, the universal object scaling is a really nice tool. Big time saver when you're putting out objects, especially if you want them all to be much larger or much smaller than the stock perceived. Definitely collisions off, honestly, personally. I think it would be cool if I turned off collisions and then it just remembered that and they were always off in any map I was in, like a default setting for me, right? Or even in the menu, if I could set it as always off. Some people like it on by default. I personally would prefer it being off. But if you're going to be messing with a lot of objects in the same space, always best to turn collisions off. Random Ladybird, I know you know this stuff, though. You're an expert builder, probably know this stuff backwards and forwards. I imagine the issue you had with the grass might have just been a temporary bug. That or you were in, you know, the object brush menu instead of in the other. Either way, though, hopefully you can get it sorted out. But it looks like this grass did change, so should be fine. All right, everyone, I had an amazing time hanging out with you on the stream. Highland L4ss, if you're still here, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate you. You're an absolute all-star. Our mods, thank you for all your support today, sending me question lists, you know, communicating and answering stuff to our community while I was busy, discussing stuff with Highland L4ss, and just being general, all-around amazing moderators. Dag, I'm glad you're here today, even at the end, you know. It's always good to get the show of force we do sometimes. Like today, we have 4 mods in here right now. We've got present Asmodeus, Atlam, Dag, and Seisu. Amazing. Thank you guys for being here. Remember, if you miss the interview, the stream when it's done will be available as a VOD, usually within a few minutes. So you can just go to our Twitch or our YouTube and find the most recent video and watch it from the start, and you'll be able to tune in and see the interview. Speaking of interviews, our next interview is going to be with the lead developer of Dungeon Alchemist, Carl Krombeck, or Aranis, as you may know him, on our Discord. He is stepping out of his dev cave for an evening to chill out with us and discuss Dungeon Alchemist development. That'll be on the 31st of January, the very last day of the month. And that's at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. UTC. So add that to your calendar right now so you don't forget. Carl, I rarely get him on the stream, maybe once a year if I'm lucky. You know what I mean? So able to line this up, in fact, get both of the major lead devs in the stream in 1 month is insane. Because we had Wim earlier this month and then Carl at the end of the month. Very excited for those. Oh, that's cool, Shlomo. That's interesting. That's a good idea. Not everyone has a stream deck, though. But I do know they offer an app now for smartphones, so anyone can do a few buttons for free. You know, maybe I'll ask him to prepare a piece, but it might be too late for him to play some drums. You know what I mean? Because he's got the toddler at home, and so it's kind of hard for him to play instruments late at night when he's on the stream. Again, Highland L4ss, thank you for being here. Everyone that was here today for the stream, whether you showed up, you know, right as we started, or you showed up near the end or dropped in for 5 minutes here, whether you were actively participating in chat or lurking, appreciate each and every one of you for supporting us and being an active member of our community. These streams would be nothing without your support. So I do appreciate when you all show up, especially for these special segments like the interview with, you know, a community member who we haven't had on the stream before and haven't gotten to know this well personally like this. I think it's a lot of fun to invite our community up and get to know them, because more often than not, we just know them by a few of their creations and their username. It's really fun to kind of peel back the curtain and get to know these people personally. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Again, my name is Mac, the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. If you're new and not sure what Dungeon Alchemist is, it is a tool to build maps for your tabletop campaigns, primarily for D&D or Pathfinder. But if you just enjoy building maps, you can use it for that as well. It's available on Steam. We offer a free demo so you can try before you buy and see how it runs on your computer, give it a little test drive. As you know, it is a resource-intensive program and not every machine can run it, you know, perfectly. That being said, our next stream, if you enjoyed today's stream and you want to catch us in the future, first off, make sure you hit that follow button if you haven't already. That way you can tune into our future streams. We stream twice a week on multiple platforms. That's like 5-6 different platforms simultaneously. Twitch, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Steam. Our TikTok streams have been down for the last couple of weeks. I've now figured out what's going on. There was a bug on the back end for TikTok and Streamlabs. They made everyone aware of it. Numerous reports came in and they couldn't figure out what was going on. They're investigating it, hopefully going to fix it. TikTok should hopefully be back within the next week or so. That being said, it probably won't be available in our next stream, which is Monday. Monday is Mapmaker Monday. I'm building a map live for y'all to watch, follow along, make suggestions. This map in particular is very tricky. It's my first attempt at making a multi-level map that goes underground and has a cave. So it has structures and underground aspects and caving all in one. I've made underground maps that had like a room or a cellar, but not necessarily diving into caves. So, and I've done caves independently before we had multi-level, but not like this. This map is called the Bone Forge. And essentially, this volcano was formed during a massive battle, a war, if you will. And there was a cataclysmic spell casting by a mage that caused this entire environment to turn into a volcano. There was a huge pyroclastic blast, and it killed a ton of people instantly and just turned them all into bones. So as you can see, there are bones kind of embedded in the rock of this volcano, bones as far as the eye can see. And essentially, after this happened, there was like some statues put up to kind of remember the fallen. And then someone realized that there is a fissure where you could go down and find, access to the hottest parts of the lava, the magma, and use it for forging. And when you use this lava for forging, it actually has a high carbon content and makes the blades very sharp, very durable. Armor is very hard to break, very, very durable. I think I'm making my own fantasy metal. What do you think, right? Damantium? Anyway, this goes underground. There's a walkway that goes into an underground chasm where they have made a space where you can use the heat of the lava, the magma, the molten hot magma, to make brilliant weapons and armor. The next update is likely, the best estimate I could give is sometime after August, likely August or later at this moment. I mean, realistically, it's based off of Damascus steel, which also has the name Dam in it, but I wanted to call it something else. So honestly, if there's a fantasy steel like that, it's likely just based off of Damascus, which is known for being incredibly resilient, sharp, and made with high carbon content. So this is the map I'm working on. It's nearing completion. We'll probably just put some finishing touches on it and then start up a new suggestion in the next stream. So if anyone wants to tune in and learn more about this map, feel free to do so on Monday. We're going to wrap up the stream, though. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Again, my name is Mac, the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. You can find Dungeon Alchemist on Steam, and if you want to get questions answered or need support during our downtime between streams, make sure you hop in our Discord or follow us on social media. You can ask us questions in Discord in our support or question forum, or ping us on social media, and we will do our best to try and answer your questions and provide you with guidance during the time between streams. Correct. The challenge theme, speaking of Forge, is Forge. I forgot to turn that back on after. So, if you are interested in participating in the Dam Challenge, started shift gears one more time. The Dam Challenge is our ongoing map-making contest. We host every 2 weeks. The current theme is Forge. You make a map of any shape or size using Forge as inspiration, and then submit it to our Dam Challenge channel in our Discord. There's some rules pinned in that channel at the top. You just click the pins, you can see them. You must follow the rules for your map to be qualified and submit your map before the deadline, which is shared in that channel as well. As long as you follow the rules and submit before the deadline, you have a chance to win a $10 Hero Forge gift card. And if you are the winning map, your map will be the first featured on the stream that day. So anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in. You have between now and end of day on the 23rd, so 11:59 in your time zone, 11:59 p.m. in your time zone on the 23rd to submit your entries for the Damn Challenge. Thank you everyone for being here. Again, my name is Mac, the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. We will see you next time I give a damn. Mac out. Bye. I'm going to run a quick Dungeon Alchemist themed ad and we're going to wrap up the show, okay?
But can it handle curves?
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 Dungeon Alchemist, the AI-powered map-making application for role-playing games, now comes with both round and diagonal walls. Create amazing professional maps for your players in seconds. Get it now on the Steam store.